Hello, my name's Amy and welcome to Juggling Life. If you are a fellow juggler, please hit that like button and show us some support. So today I would like to talk to you about medical conditions. More specifically, the medical conditions that I live with. The ones that affect my daily life. I'm going to start with the one that I've had for the longest, which is migraines. Now, as a child, I suffered with migraines a lot, especially going through high school or senior school. I had a lot of migraines. Now, there are lots of different triggers for migraines. For some people, it can be a dietary thing, so it could be cheese or chocolate or caffeine. It could be any of those kind of things that trigger their migraines. For some people, it can be light, it can be stress, it can be any number of things. For me personally, my migraines when I was a child, I think, were a combination of some stress, I guess, because I was getting bullied a lot at school. So I think there was a certain amount of stress, a certain amount of anxiety, maybe a little bit of depression thrown in there, and those things can all trigger migraines. Also, light. That has always been a trigger for me. And to this day, I think my migraine triggers have actually remained the same. I went through a phase as a young adult where I didn't get too many migraines. I kind of outgrew them, or so I thought. When I was a child and had migraines, not only did I get really, really severe headaches, but almost guaranteed I would also be sick. Yep, I would throw up almost every single time that I got a migraine. Now, thankfully, even though I do still get migraines as an adult, the sickness side of things isn't as bad as it used to be. 9 times out of 10, I will get the migraine aura, which I didn't get as a child, or I didn't acknowledge or know or understand as a child. I will then get the migraine and it will floor me for a while. But I don't tend to get the severe nausea and vomiting that I used to get as a child. And I'm very, very thankful for that, because that is not a pleasant side effect of being ill. So as a child, I was put onto various medications, beta blockers and things, as a preventative measure to try and stop my migraines. As an adult, I am not on preventative medication as such. I have medication that I take when I sense the migraine aura starting, and it is designed to stop a migraine in its tracks. Now, for me personally, it doesn't stop things completely. It can stop the aura, and it can stop the migraine developing into a full-blown migraine, but generally I will still end up with a relatively bad headache. I guess I should be grateful that that's all it is and that it doesn't turn into a migraine. However, they're still not very pleasant. As a child, I also wore glasses, and for the most part had a blue tint put onto them, because fluorescent lights, which were pretty much all of the lights that were at school, and then when I got older and went into the workplace, fluorescent lights were a trigger for me, and they still are. I still have to be very careful when I'm under them. The blue tint on my glasses helped to take the glare off of the fluorescent lighting. However, even as an adult, lighting is still an issue. Even a bright sky or an overcast sky that's bright white can be enough to trigger a migraine. Flashing lights from LEDs or torches or laser pens or anything like that, rapid flashing can be such a quick trigger to cause a migraine in me. And I also think that there's a lot of stress and anxiety that goes alongside that as well. But I know that light is definitely a big trigger for me. So I take my medication when I sense the aura coming on. And generally, I'll just end up with a bad head. Now, migraine aura is an interesting thing. Different people will experience different types of aura, if they experience it at all. Because, as I previously said, as a child, I don't recall experiencing it. As an adult, the first sign that I'm getting a migraine is generally visual disturbance. So I get a sensation in my eyes that I can only really describe as almost a sensation of getting pins and needles in my eyeballs. Yeah, not too pleasant. I lose my peripheral vision, so everything around the sides goes either completely blurred or gets completely blacked out, almost like tunnel vision, like I'm wearing blinkers. I cannot clearly see all of these things that are around me. If I take my meds and they work efficiently, that then goes away and I don't get any more aura. It just develops into the bad headache. If I don't have my medication, or I'm out and I don't have access to it, or whatever, for whatever reason, the aura can develop, in me anyway. So generally, my visual disturbance is the first thing to go. I can also pick up on numbness in my bottom lip and in my fingertips. That's like the next level of aura for me. So I've got my eyes going funky, I've got numbness in my mouth and in my fingertips. Again, if it's not treated, it can actually go one step further where I actually have speech impairment. Yeah, I literally cannot speak incomplete sentences and make any sense. In my head, I know what it is I'm trying to say. Even if I'm reading a piece of text that's in front of me, if I'm trying to read it out loud, the words that I'm reading will be in my head correctly, but the things that I'm saying come out completely jumbled. So I could be asking one of my children to perform a specific task, pick something up from there and put it down there. And the words for maybe the item and the place that I want them to put it get swapped over. I could be trying to read something, a piece of text, and all of those words would just come out as a big jumbled mess. And the harder you try to correct it, the more you try and focus on it and concentrate, the worse it gets. If you get to that stage with migraine aura, you know it's gonna be a bad one. You've left it too late for those aura meds to kick in. So, migraines are not much fun. As much as I don't get them as often as I used to, I do still get them fairly frequently. I normally get a migraine every couple of weeks, which I'm thankful for that I don't get them more frequently. But to be fair, getting one every other week is still quite frequent, and it's really not very nice. When I get a migraine, I find that the only things that generally help, obviously I'll try and take pain relief and my aura meds if I have them on me at the time, but things like darkness, quiet. Now, I have 4 children, so that one can be quite tricky. And something cool on your head. Like, I tend to use a cold, wet face cloth. I drench it in cold water, I wring it out, and I place it over my eyes, over my forehead, because when I suffer with a migraine, or even a headache, my body could be freezing, but my head will feel like it is boiling. I don't know why. Probably something to do with blood flow and all of that, but I'm not too good with the science behind these things. I just know what I experience. So my head burns. So putting something either on my forehead or on the back of my neck, or even on the top of my head sometimes, wherever it is that I feel the most discomfort and the most kind of heat, I will try and cool that down, because being somewhere cool, being in the dark, being in the quiet are all really good things, really necessities when you have a migraine. The other thing that I do opt for sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling at the time, and this is probably because of my profession and what I do, is self-hypnosis. Because when you are struggling with a migraine, you can't think straight, you can't see straight. All that you're focusing on is the pain and discomfort that is going on in your head, and it can be so distracting. It will floor you and stop you doing anything. So to be able to try and relax and be able to let go of some of that pain and discomfort, I use self-hypnosis. Now, it can be a recording that I've made, it could be a recording that I listen to from somebody else. YouTube is great for hypnosis sessions, and I will put my headphones on, or even just have it playing on my phone somewhere not too close to my head, so that I can listen to that and it helps me to just distract myself from the pain and suffering, to be fair. And it allows your mind and body to just disconnect for a little while. So yeah, that's pretty much migraines. I had them as a child, I have them as an adult. I used to get sick with them, don't tend to much anymore. I had beta blocker meds when I was younger, I now just have meds that I take at the onset. The migraine itself, though, is still pretty much the same. My triggers are still pretty much the same. If you would like me to do a video more specifically on migraines and the types of migraines that you can get, because there are lots of different types of migraines, and maybe about different ways of helping to ease them, trying to function with them, then leave a comment below, because I would be more than happy to break this video down into multiple other videos and focus on the different conditions that I'm going to speak about. Today is really just a summary of the different things that I live with on a daily basis or on a regular basis. But as I say, I would be more than happy to create videos that focus solely on that specific thing if you would like me to do that. Leave that up to you. If you want to, just comment below. So migraines are one thing that I suffer with. Another thing that I struggle with on a daily basis is chronic pain, chronic back pain and sciatica. Now I'm putting both of those things in together because one tends to trigger the other. They kind of go hand in hand. It's pain. It's pain in your back, your butt and your leg. So my chronic back pain actually started when I was about 18. I'm quite a bit older than that now. I'm 38. So for 20 years, I have had to put up with being in pain. I'm pretty sure that the cause of my chronic pain was the job that I was doing at the time. I was working in a retail job that involved a lot of manual lifting, a lot of heavy manual lifting, and I think that is where I actually initially damaged my back. And then as life went on, more things aggravated it. I hadn't actually done any serious enough damage to warrant having surgery or anything like that, but it was enough to trigger regular muscle spasms and a lot of discomfort. As I say, bring it on 20 years, I'm still suffering with my back. And not a day goes by where I'm not in some level of discomfort with it. Now, the thing with chronic pain is you get used to it. This isn't really a good thing. This is just a thing. Your body gets used to a certain level of pain. It raises its pain tolerances. So on a day where I'm having a reasonably good day and I'm not in too much pain, there is still pain there. Any person experiencing the level of pain I have on a good day would be in discomfort and would think there's something wrong here. This is not comfortable. This is not nice. But for me, that's a good day. It's not absolutely agonizing. I can still move about without too much discomfort. On a bad day, I am in a lot of pain. It does affect my mobility. I can struggle to walk. I can struggle to bend and pick up after the kids. I can't get comfortable. It doesn't matter whether I'm sitting, standing, laying, doesn't matter. There will be serious pain going on, and I have to take meds to go along with that. I try not to if I can help it, but there are some days where I just have to. On those days, if I happen to mention to anybody that my back is playing up or that I'm in pain, take that as read that I am in agony, because on a normal day-to-day basis where I experience normal discomfort and normal pain levels for me, I won't generally say anything. But if it's gotten bad enough that I actually express it to somebody and tell somebody that I'm struggling, that means things are really bad. That's just my personal experience. Obviously, different people respond to pain in different ways, but that's how things generally are for me. The sciatica side of things, I tend to get flare-ups with the sciatica. Now, for those of you that don't know, sciatica is caused by the sciatic nerve, which runs down your spine, down your butt and down your legs, and generally causes severe kind of muscle ache. It can cause like a burning sensation under the skin, a numbing sensation. It's generally when the sciatic nerve is being pressed on or pinched or, restrained in some way. And more often than not, one side of the body is affected at one time. I have had times where both of my legs have been really painful, but thankfully that's not very often. So when you have sciatica as well as chronic back pain, that can be incredibly uncomfortable. But there's not really much you can do sciatica-wise because it's like a nerve pain. There's a lot of stretching activities you can do. Yoga is quite good for it and helping to stretch things and sort of release any trapped nerves. But it's one of those things that generally flares up. It'll hang around for a week or so, and then it'll kind of calm down again, and you forget about it for a little while until it kicks in again, and then you're like, yeah, thanks, sciatica, just forgotten about you. So that's the chronic pain. As it turns out, with my spine is actually slightly damaged. The bottom couple of vertebrae in my spine are actually fused together. So where most people have a natural curve to the bottom of their spine, mine is straight, which causes some difficulties. And at the top of my spine, the very top vertebrae, the smaller ones in my neck, actually lean slightly over to one side, to the right hand side. And that's also why I hold my head at a very slight angle, because everything's trying to compensate. So I have a lot of issues with my back and my spine. I've had 4 children, which has caused issues with my pelvis. It's all generally lower back related. My pain and my discomfort is all lower back. Lower back, pelvis, and as I say, sometimes in the back of my thighs if the sciatica is kicking in as well. So that's always fun. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about briefly is hypothyroidism, or to give it its more common name, an underactive thyroid. Now, as with the other subjects I've already discussed, an entire video could be dedicated to discussing what causes it, what the symptoms and side effects are, the treatment and things like that. But for now, what I will say is it does have an extensive range of symptoms and side effects. It can cause depression, it can cause weight gain, it can cause tiredness and lethargy, it can disrupt so many different things. And so again, I have to get my bloods tested on a regular basis. I have to take thyroxine to balance that out, and I'm going to have to take that for the rest of my life. It's not a great thing. It took me a long time to actually get it diagnosed. Years and years ago, I asked the doctors to test me for it because it had been suggested to me that that could be an issue that I was facing. And every time I had them tested, I was told that I was kind of borderline for treatment. So it was kind of on the underactive side, but not enough to warrant being put on medication. And then a couple of years ago, I went back and I'm like, look, all of these symptoms that are listed here as being symptoms of an underactive thyroid, I have pretty much all of them. Now, this test that you do, you know, can we do it again? Can we look at the other levels? Because there's not just one level that they can look at. There are various things in your blood that they can test. And they agreed to do the tests again. And they were like, yeah, okay, we need to start you on thyroxine. So obviously over the years, since I'd been tested initially, things had deteriorated. My thyroid was functioning even less than it was before. And it had now pushed me into that category of being viable for treatment. And over the last couple of years, I've been and got tests, and they've actually gradually been increasing my dose. And to be honest, I don't know if I'm still actually on like the optimum dose for my thyroid, because I still have a lot of the symptoms that go alongside having an underactive thyroid, which my understanding is that if you are on medication for it so that your thyroid is being regulated, then you really shouldn't still be experiencing a lot of those symptoms. So I have to keep going back every 3 months to get tested, and they will just keep adjusting the dose based on the results. Again, if you would like more information on hypothyroidism, which is what I have, underactive thyroid, or even hyperactive, then let me know, and I could do a separate video dedicated to that. The last thing that I wanted to mention, and it's probably one of the more challenging things for me, I think, and I probably will do a separate video because it is a bit of a journey orientated thing. I got diagnosed a year or so ago with sleep apnea, and there is a backstory to the whole sleep apnea thing, so I will go into that in more detail. But there is a history in my family of sleep apnea, and it had been mentioned on numerous occasions I should get tested for it because I had been seen stopping breathing when I was sleeping, because I snored very heavily when I was sleeping. And yeah, my mum at the time was very concerned. So I went to see the doctor. I eventually got a referral to the sleep clinic. I went in for a sleep study, and they said that it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but that I was still stopping breathing when I was sleeping. Not quite to the extent that some people are, but definitely enough to warrant kind of looking at things again, being trialed on a CPAP machine. And yeah, so I had all of those different appointments and things, and I have a CPAP machine at home. Now, the CPAP machine is a little machine that creates constant pressure to keep your airways open. And it's got a mask. There are different masks that you can get. I'll cover that in the other video, but the one that I have covers my nose and mouth because I am a mouth breather. I can only breathe through my nose for a very short amount of time before I have great difficulties. I am wondering whether my septum is slightly deviated because I've always struggled to breathe through my nose, but hey ho. So I'm supposed to wear this mask every night. You have a mask that goes over your face, and it has like headgear, so there's straps that go like over the top of your head, around the back of your head. It kind of holds it nice and tight because it has to form a seal. It's really not the most comfortable thing to wear every night, and it has this long tube that comes out of it that goes into the machine. And the machine is set at a rate that's decided by the sleep clinic. Now, I have gotten used to the pressure, the air pressure. Initially, I struggled with that a lot because if you imagine when you're settling down to sleep at night and you have just got air being constantly forced up your nose and down your throat, it's almost suffocating. You feel like you're drowning in air. You can't breathe out properly because you've got this air pushing in the other way, and you kind of panic. And I had a few almost traumatizing experiences with the CPAP mask to begin with, although that doesn't bother me as much anymore. I'm more used to that now. I think the thing that I struggle with the most is the actually getting comfortable wearing it, because it, as I say, it is quite tight to your face, and moving around and sort of sleeping on your side, because you're not really meant to sleep on your back if you have sleep apnea, because your airways can collapse or become compressed, and it makes it even more difficult for you to breathe. So that's not a good thing if you're already stopping breathing. So you generally try and sleep on your side, but having these straps around your head, and I don't know whether, as I say, it's something to do with my nose, but the mask kind of sits like here. So it sits right on your sinuses, and I tend to find that is the most uncomfortable part. It's not even the straps that are around your head or the fact that you have this air being constantly pushed into your face. It's the fact that it squashes my nose and it presses against my sinuses, and I really struggle to kind of breathe through my nose at the best of times without it being pressed. So I have to keep trying to move it around, but you have to try and keep this seal, because if the seal is broken, you end up with like air pressure being forced up into your eyes or like down the side of your face, and A, it won't be doing its job properly, and B, it can cause a whole host of other things, especially if it's being forced up into your eyeball. So yeah, I'm still, even now, even a year down the line, fighting with my CPAP machine because I'm meant to wear it every single night for the whole night. And I struggle, even if I can put it on when I go to bed and settle down with it on, I tend to find that I wake up in the early hours of the morning and I tend to take it off, which isn't good. It's not advised, it's not doing me any good, but when I wake up at, say, like 3 o'clock in the morning and I've got this thing that's like really uncomfortable, it's putting pressure on my sinuses and on my head and it's giving me a sore head, the last thing I want is to try and then get back to sleep with this thing on my face because it's so uncomfortable. So I am currently persevering with it because I know that in the long run it will help me. It will help me to get a better quality of sleep, and in theory, it will help to improve my daily functioning, because sleep apnea is basically you stopping breathing when you are asleep numerous times throughout the night, which means that you never really fall into that nice deep state of relaxation. You never get into proper REM stage sleep, deep sleep. You're only ever sleeping very lightly, and that means that you're not getting restorative sleep. So yes, you will go to sleep sometimes. To anybody looking in, they would think you were asleep, but when you wake up in the morning, you do not feel like you have had a really rested night's sleep. You do not wake up with that spring in your step going, right, let's face the day. What have we got going on today, you know? Most days I wake up with a sore head, and it takes me ages to actually kind of come to and wake up properly. I struggle to wake up. that headache, that fuzziness, that brain fog, that's there most days. If I have managed to wear my CPAP mask through the entire night, quite often I wake up with a bellyache because, being a mouth breather, I have swallowed excess amounts of air and my stomach is now bloated with this excess air, and that is painful and it takes ages to ease. So you generally wake up in the morning feeling like you haven't slept. You probably wake up more tired in the morning than you were the night before when you went to bed. That's my experience of it. And that still happens if you only wear the mask for a few hours and then you take it off. Because what happens is you put it on and you start using it and your body's maybe getting a little bit of restorative sleep, maybe. But then a few hours later, when you take it off and you go back to sleep, you then stop breathing again, repeatedly. And while you're maybe not stopping breathing as many times as you would have done if you hadn't have had the mask on at all, that stopping breathing, every apnea that you have, is just taking a little bit away from that bit of good sleep that you had. So the restorative work you do at the beginning is then totally undone in the second half of the night. So if you do have sleep apnea and you do have a CPAP machine and you are struggling, you're going to have to do the same as me. You're going to have to just keep persevering with it and keep trying, because I know that eventually, if you can tolerate having that mask on every night for the night, eventually after the first couple of weeks of doing that, you should then notice a big difference in your daily life. And I think because I've struggled with it so much, I still haven't even really got to that point, but I haven't completely given up yet. It's there to help me, and it worries me that I stop breathing when I'm sleeping. That's not a good thing. I mean, breathing is a bare minimum for life, really, So I have to keep going with that. So those are the things that I contend with on a daily and nightly basis. Now, I don't want you to think that this video is just me moaning about the things that I have going on. This isn't a video saying, oh, woe is me, my life is so hard, I have so many things to deal with, I'm so ill. I'm also not a hypochondriac. I don't like going to the doctors. I try and avoid it if at all possible. However, I am aware that I have these things going on. And so I thought, if I put those out there at the beginning of this channel, it will give you a little bit of understanding as to what I do go through on a daily basis. And there's going to be lots of different aspects. So those are my medical things that I struggle with sometimes. There's going to be emotional and mental things that I deal with on a daily basis. There's going to be children-related things that I deal with on a daily basis. So they're all going to come together to give you a bigger picture as to how I juggle life. So as I've said, probably repeatedly throughout this video, if you would like me to do a more in-depth video into any of those conditions, so chronic back pain, sciatica, migraines, hypothyroidism, sleep apnea, or even anything else, then comment below and let me know, and I will then do that and post it up for you. So I just thought I would let you into my little world right now and the things that tend to go on for me. If you already have any of those conditions and you maybe have some hints and tips, techniques and things that have worked for you that might help other people, please comment those below. I think that would be fantastic if we can get a little supportive community going on here and we can help each other sharing those hints and tips. That would be fantastic. So that's me for today. I will come back again very soon with another fun fact-filled video. But for now, take care, and I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, whatever it is that you're doing. Bye, guys.